So now, ladies and gentlemen, live and in colour, it's Mr. Wayne Lovejuice.
The other day our producer Louis had a chat with an interesting chappie who said that the YouTube algorithms really aren't that happy. If a channel only broadcasts once a week, so we decided we could text ya whenever we've got a piece of news in our new book on the track Xtra. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, which, if you didn't know, is the largest cryptozoological organisation in the English-speaking world. And welcome to another episode of On the Track Xtra. For those of you not in the know, every Saturday afternoon at 3 for about half an hour, and every Wednesday evening at 6:30 for about half that, we bring you a miscellany of hard science, weird shit, and surreality. What's surreality, you may ask? Well, I think you ought to ask the cat.
Well, if you follow the research of Timothy Leary and Robert Anton Wilson, it suggests that every human being and animal, and especially every talking cat, has a slightly different view of the world than everybody else, and that through various exercises one can expand this uniqueness. And I think that Father, that's John Downs for those of you who don't know, I think that Father likes living in a world with talking cats and ambulatory anthropomorphic chickens more than he likes living in a world which has the current government and President Putin.
This is a black-veined white. It's a particularly beautiful butterfly that's found throughout most of Eurasia. It was found in Britain up until about 100 years ago. In fact, to be more exact, until just before the First World War. And then it inexplicably died out. But this summer, several specimens have actually been seen in Britain, and I, for one, want to know why. In early June, small numbers of black-veined whites had been spotted flying in fields and hedgerows on the edge of southeast London. To the non-expert, they could easily be mistaken for common or garden cabbage white butterflies, but they're neither common nor garden. They were first listed as a British species during the reign of King Charles II, and they were officially declared as extinct in 1925. In June they mysteriously appeared amongst their favourite habitat, hawthorn and blackthorn trees on the edge of London, where various naturalists, including a BBC reporter, watched them flitting through hedgerows. The charity Butterfly Conservation, which monitors butterfly numbers in Britain, told the BBC that the insects will have been released in Britain, but they don't know by who or why. Regular viewers will remember that about a year ago we did a story about a group of people called introductionists who circumvent the current legislation about introducing new species and do it secretly, reintroducing animals which until now were extinct or extirpated from that part of England. Regular viewers will know that one of my favourite books is Living with Butterflies by the late L. Hugh Newman, and in it he talks about a little-known reintroduction project for the species which took place in the late 1940s. And the mastermind behind it all was none other than Winston Churchill. The most important and mildly amusing part of the story is not that the reintroduction project failed. It failed for all sorts of reasons, but not through lack of enthusiasm on Churchill's part. But one of the reasons that it failed was that it turned out that since its extirpation in Britain, the black-veined white, which does on many occasions feed off fruit trees, was listed as an invasive species pest in Kent and other fruit-growing parts of southern England. Churchill was, of course, quite happy to circumvent that legislation, but in the end it didn't work out anyway. The work of the introductionists is something that I am very ambivalent about. Part of me is excited to see new species, or rather old species, coming back into England, and other parts of me think that, well, if it's not being done properly with government assistance, is it going to be done at all? And will the reintroductions work? And there are, of course, very good reasons for the legislation about introducing animals into the British countryside. There are great disease hazards. For example, the chytrid virus, which has caused havoc and decimated whole populations and entire species of amphibian around the world, is believed to have come from specimens of one of the African clawed frogs that have been released illegally from a laboratory. And there are other horror stories as well. When Patrick Barkham wrote a couple of years back about the last work of a reintroductionist who had since died, trying to reintroduce the Mazarine blue, another species which had not been seen wild in Britain since the beginning of the 20th century, I was very excited by his work. I had read the scientific papers which the introductionist in question had written, and I thought that what he was proposing would work out fine. However, there have been no reports of Mazarine blues in Britain in the succeeding years, so it looks like that was a very brave and utterly futile experiment. But what about these black-veined whites? How easy is it to get hold of black-veined white livestock? Well, sadly I think it's far more easy than you might think. When I was a boy, one of my favourite family outings, and one which I probably pestered for in a particularly annoying manner, was worldwide butterflies at Livingstone Castle in Dorset. It was a fantastic place, and I was always absolutely enthralled by it while I was there. It was the only place that I had ever seen some of the butterfly species on display, and it was fantastic to be able to walk around both the tropical butterfly rooms and the big polytunnels that contained more temperate species. However, time has taken its toll, and Worldwide Butterflies is now an internet-only operation, although it still sells some fantastic livestock that I, if I was still in the market for such things, would be fascinated to try and rear. And yes, it does sell black-veined whites. Have a look at this. This is an advert for black-veined white livestock for early 2024. It's been too late to get hold of them this season. But enthusiasts have been rearing rare butterflies for centuries, and there's no reason why things have changed. Or is there? There's no indication on the black-veined white advert that it is being aimed at introductionists or anybody else, in fact. It's just one of many adverts for livestock that can be found on this website. But have a look at this. This is another rare species that we've talked about on the track on many occasions. This is the large tortoiseshell. It's another rare species that has been extirpated from the United Kingdom and which now does appear to be making a comeback. But has the comeback been helped by introductionists? And has the comeback been helped by livestock like this, which is relatively cheaply available? Just have a look at the bottom of this advert. This is, I think, a little disturbing. It's also, in theory at least, completely illegal. And although I am quite prepared to believe that the law is an ass, and I try to follow the spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law, and quite often I don't even follow both, I think that this is, by anybody's standards, an incitement for people to break the Wildlife and Countryside Act. Is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Or is it just a thing? I'm still sitting on the fence. What do you think?